Hey, at least you're not building the flows live. I did that.
Oh yeah,
I built the flows live in mine. It was fun.
there was a flow fest at Mile High Dream, and that was live. People were building it, and that's nerve wracking.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mardreamin. We're so excited to have you all joining us today. My name is Kate Godley. I'm with Circante, and I'm going to be moderating today's session. So before we get started, I just have a few housekeeping items to cover. First off, these sessions will be recorded and will be available on demand after the event. We'll be following up via email to get you access to that once the event has concluded. If you have a question, you can go ahead and post it in the Q&A tab above the chat section, and we should have plenty of time at the end to answer those questions. If we do not have time as we're running through the presentation. Lastly, feel free to use the chat. We've got emojis and GIFs. We'd love to hear from you. So now let's go ahead and get started. First, I'd like to introduce you to Greg Johnson, a marketing operations manager at Support Logic, who's really built this amazing way to funnel marketing campaign members. And with him, we also have Ben Lamoth, a Pardot solutions architect with BDO Digital. He is also a marketing champion and founder of the Tampa Pardot user group. They've got an awesome session prepared for you all today about unifying your marketing funnel with campaign members. So with that, take it away.
All right. Thank you very much for that introduction, Kate. I'm very happy to be speaking here at Mardreamin. Special thanks to Ben for his assistance throughout the process to get to here and with building the solution. So what we're going to cover today is why you need a unified funnel. If you're using leads and contacts, you're probably already very familiar with that. And then we'll talk about how you can connect the lead and the contact objects on the campaign members using some simple formula fields. Then we'll briefly touch on how you can not only create leads and contacts as campaign members, but also accounts as campaign members with Flow if you want to use this solution for doing ABM, account-based marketing. And then finally, we will leave some time for questions, and I have a few sections where you can take some screen grabs of the basic formula fields and flows that I use in our solution. And we'll start with a brief history of the lead object. It didn't exist when Salesforce was originally built. Salesforce was an accounts and contacts based solution. And you can see that in the ID prefixes of the different objects. The contact ID prefix is 003, the account ID prefix is 001, and the lead is 00Q. So that tells you how far on it was before Salesforce built the lead. The lead is really useful because it's not tied to an account. So this is useful if you have a lot of inbound business and you have a very large or unknown total addressable market. It also helps you clearly delineate between who you want your sales development team reaching out to and who you want your account executives reaching out to. The lead is essentially an unknown, unqualified entity. The contact, once the lead is converted, is a known qualified entity who is ready for your account executives. But the lead object is dead, if you want to do ABM, that is. While the lead is flawed, we just said that it's still very useful. However, a lot of this functionality for attribution and linking opportunities to campaigns in Salesforce relies on the contact object. For an account for a campaign to show as influencing an opportunity, an opportunity contact on that opportunity has to be in the campaign. So that means if you have a lead who is a key influencer who is not converted by your sales team, which happens very frequently at Support Logic and probably at your organization as well, then we're not going to see attribution for that campaign. At Support Logic, we built a lot of our processes around the lead object. Our SDRs work leads, and when they're qualified and when we schedule a meeting, those are converted into contacts and passed on to the account executives. We recognize that the lead object isn't perfect for us, and it has flaws. But abandoning the lead object is just not a project that we have the capacity for right now. And that's why I wanted a way to connect leads and contacts and get a single view of our marketing funnel without using a new business intelligence tool and without completely redefining our processes and essentially redefining our business. So a little bit brief pitch about Support Logic. Support Logic is predictive and generative AI for customer support. We help support teams tackle their toughest challenges, like customer escalations, case resolution times. We help teams increase their efficiency by helping agents resolve cases faster and managers manage larger teams. Some of our notable customers are Salesforce and Nutanix, who reduced their escalation rates by 56% and 40% respectively. If you want to know a little bit about Support Logic, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, or you can shoot me an email. My email is greg@supportlogic.com. So now getting into the solution a little more. Even though we were using the lead object, and we still do, a lot of the top reasons for using it don't apply to us. The Support Logic TAM is very well defined. In many cases, we know the exact accounts and also the exact people who we want to reach out to, and those folks already exist in Salesforce. We have very little inbound traffic. Our SDRs and our AEs are supposed to prospect into accounts together. And given all of those reasons, it would really make sense for us to only use contacts instead of leads. However, a lot of our processes, as I said, have been built and are dependent on the lead. And that's caused a few challenges for us, especially when it comes to looking at account activity broadly between leads and contacts. Activities on the lead don't roll up to the account, so it's very difficult for us to get a holistic view of what activity is going on at the accounts. How many calls, how many emails, who is doing that activity, and what the result is. It's tedious because it requires multiple reports, and then you have to pull those reports into a secondary solution like Google Sheets. And this is what our marketing funnel looked like before we implemented this solution. On the left-hand side, you see current lead stage, and this was our funnel all the way up to the point of conversion. And when a lead was converted to a contact, they fell out of the funnel on the left-hand side and moved into the funnel on the right-hand side, which included our sales qualified and sales accepted opportunity stage. And as I said, it was very difficult for us to attribute funnel progression to campaigns, because contacts are the connection between opportunities and campaigns. And again, if a key influencer is listed as a lead because they haven't been converted, then they're not going to show attribution for the campaign that they attended. And we also couldn't track funnel velocity, because once a lead fell off of the lead funnel, we can't report on them in a leads report. So we couldn't answer simple questions like, how many MQLs do we have week over week? That's a very basic question that we didn't have a good answer to. And that's why my team really wanted a unified marketing funnel. And very simply, a unified marketing funnel, it's a single view where you can get an understanding of your entire sales funnel, regardless of the prospect stage in that funnel, regardless of whether they're a lead or a contact. And with that unified funnel, you can also track accounts from start to finish, and you can know what campaigns are performing for you, what campaigns aren't, so you know where to shift your resources. And most of us know anecdotally what campaigns perform, because we work with the data every day. But we also know that leadership isn't going to make decisions based on our anecdotes. We need to provide data, and we need to justify why we want to do more sponsored webinars, why we want to do more in-person events. And with a unified marketing funnel, it has really simplified our ability to do that. And this is what our solution, our marketing funnel looks like after I implemented the campaign member solution. We have all of our life cycle stages in one funnel, and we know simple questions like how many MQLs we have month over month. All right, so this is just a taste of what it looks like, and now we're going to get into how you can achieve that. And you do that by using the campaign member object. And the campaign member object is really perfectly suited to this task, because it uses a who ID to reference the related record, which means that even if, regardless of whether the related object is a lead or a contact, you can pull in data from the related record using a formula field. And over on the right-hand side, you'll see the formula field that I'm using on our campaign member objects. It's a simple cascading if statements looking to see if the associated record has a contact ID, then you pull in the information you want from the contact. If it has a lead ID, then pull it in from the lead. And if you are using this solution to track accounts as well, you can add a third if statement that says, if there's no lead ID and there's no contact ID, then pull information from the related account. Now, you can push these individual campaign members into a marketing funnel for individuals, and you can push the accounts into a marketing funnel for accounts. And how we are accomplishing that is, when a new record is created in our system, we use a flow to create that campaign member. And here's a large view of that formula field outline that was in small text on the previous slide. I'll pause here for a moment to let y'all take a screenshot if you'd like.
And one of the things that that Greg is going to cover is the implications for reporting, because this is, I mean, you're doing all this to try and get a better view of your funnel, but ultimately you want to be able to report on the funnel and demonstrate how, like, be able to share it with your leadership. And when they ask questions about this, this is ultimately what has to be built to support that. And I see that Susan in the chat, this is a similar issue that she's been dealing with for a while. So I'm glad that this is something that she might be able to implement in her org. But it's definitely a very unique solution that is a solve for SupportLogic's needs. And I think I'd said previously that how companies and organizations use the lead, contact, and account objects and their relationships is not absolute. Everybody will have slightly different needs and requirements, and the relationship to the campaign object between leads and contacts adds a layer of complexity that, when you're trying to tie all these things together to do what is maybe even basic attribution reporting, if you have leads if you don't follow a standard kind of quote unquote traditional conversion process of their lead, they meet whatever the minimum qualification is, and then they become a contact. If the flow is not that standard, that's predictable, and there are worlds where a lead can exist as a lead and only becomes a contact in a very specific, like meeting a very specific bar, but they could be a lead still talking to sales for months potentially, and can also producing a lot of marketing touches and things like that. You want to be able to still have access to that data and relate them to an account, even though they're not technically considered in terms of how SupportLogic, for example, identifies who a contact is. They have not met that criteria, but they're still very much considered organizationally to be a part of that account, just not a contact yet. When you have those high thresholds to become a contact, this is where a solution like this potentially comes in handy to be able to present a more, as like the title says, a more unified funnel. And it really just kind of hinges on this idea that not every company does this kind of smooth, is a lead, does the minimum requirement, and becomes a contact. A lot of the existing architecture within Salesforce kind of hinges on this idea of people are a lead and then they just obviously become a contact. And SupportLogic doesn't go that route. And it looks like Susan, Jay, and Heather have similarly have experienced a similar thing. So yes, by all means, try to implement this or something like this in your org and see if it works. And Greg is going to show some other things here that are going to the more of the back half of it, how the records get pushed in between the different objects. But this is ultimately why, because you got this issue where you could be a lead for a long time and only and weeks later become a contact, but there's so much that happens before that. So yes, Angelica, the next step is to see the technical side of it. So Greg, go ahead.
Moving on. So how we are tracking the progression through this campaign, specifically the marketing individuals campaign, is we have a checkbox that indicates the current stage of the campaign member in that funnel. And we also have date stamps associated with all of those checkboxes. So on the date that Angelica becomes an MQL, that box is checked and the date is stamped. And by looking at those date stamp fields, we can now create week over week and month over month reports of how many MQLs, how many SAOs we have, and show that in one clean view. I also touched on the fact that you can do this with accounts. And so what we've started to do at Support Logic is not only track the individuals who register for our events, but also track the accounts. We are trying to go to a more ABM centric approach to in our marketing efforts because uh, we found recently that outbound there's diminishing returns, and so we really need to focus heavily on the accounts that are registered. So in a campaign, we just wanted to see, okay, what are our top 20 accounts in this campaign, so we can prioritize our follow-up to them, and not only follow up to the individuals who are registered for the campaign, but also follow up to everybody in the org that we want to get in touch with. And again, this is just looking at the last statement in this cascading formula field. If the contact ID is blank and the lead ID is blank, then the associated contact campaign member must be an account. So we're going to pull the information that we want from the account level. And then finally, here's the money slide. This is the record triggered flow that we are using to create campaign members in the marketing funnel individual campaign.
Greg, is there any way for you to blow this up a little bit? I don't know if there's a way. It may not be possible in Goldcast, but I imagine people are wanting to screen grab this.
Not that I know of. I believe the deck is going to be shared out after the event.
Okay, awesome. So yes, if you can't see it, then if you're having a hard time blowing it up, then just look for the deck afterwards, or reach out to Greg, and he'll be able to provide it to you as well.
Yes, my email is greg@supportlogic.io. Very happy to share this screenshot, as well as give a little more detail into how the flow is built and created.
Yeah, we've got someone you send. Rich is literally building this out as we speak, so this is very, very timely for him.
Happy to help, Rich. All right, Ben, do you think we can continue to move on?
Yeah, we don't have enough time to go into like the deep details of the piece of this, but yes, between outreach to you and then reviewing the deck, I think we're good.
All right. Now, we're not only creating accounts for tracking in the overall funnel campaign. Like I said, we're creating accounts as campaign members in all campaigns because that allows us to see a specific campaign's effect on that account's position in our marketing funnel. So essentially how this flow works is when a new campaign member is created in one of our campaigns, we look to see first, is that a lead or a contact? And then we look to see if there's an associated account. And if there's an associated account, is that account already a campaign member? If it's already a campaign member, then the flow ends. If it's not already a campaign member, then we create that account as a campaign. And we also stamp at the same time that account's funnel stage when it entered the campaign. And you see here, we're stamping that initial opportunity stage. And this current opportunity stage that we see that's a formula field. So that's going to update in real time, and it allows us to go back and look at any campaign uh, in our history and see where was your account when you entered this campaign. You were in a nurture stage, and what was the effect of you attending this campaign on your position in the funnel? Did that bring you back into an active sales cycle? And if so, like what was it about the campaign that drew you back in? We can now start to ask questions like that because we can see the effect that our campaigns have. And this is a view of the marketing funnel for accounts. And you'll see it looks very similar to the funnel for individuals, just with some slightly different stage names and figures. And you can name these stages to be whatever you like and tailor it to your organization's definitions and your sales cycle. And finally, here's that MQL's month over month view that I talked about. We didn't have this before. I had to do this in a lead report and a contact report that I then pulled into Google Sheets. And it was time consuming. I didn't have confidence in the data, but now I just create a campaign members report, and I have reliable data that I can show to my leadership team and point to. In this month, we had our virtual conference. Now look at the huge spike in MQLs that we could attribute to our own virtual conference. That is concrete justification for investing in that virtual conference again next year and to continue to make it an even better event. I can also track funnel velocity, which again, I couldn't do before because as a target, the individual was a lead. As a sales accepted opportunity, they were a contact. So again, I had to do that in 2 different reports, and now I have one single view. So thank you for joining us today. We have some time for questions, and I would like to go ahead and answer some. Susan, I'm very happy to know that this solution will be helpful to you. Um, if you have any questions or run into difficulties when you're trying to build it out, feel free to shoot me an email.
There's a question from Angelica. How are you automating the box checks for the different stages?
So we have criteria for when an individual to satisfy to become an MQL, for instance, and those are based off of for us grade and score, and those boxes are also formula fields, and it's simply if score is above the threshold and grade is above the threshold, then box is checked. Separate, and when that box is checked, that triggers a flow, which then does the date stamp for us. Yeah, our criteria for MQO is essentially a grade of B- or better, as we've defined it based on industry and job title, and then score being a 50 or better. And they get to be 50 or better by registering for one of our webinars or events.